The Milwaukee Brewers had an amazing month of May, led by who? We'll tell you about that next here on Locked On Brewers.
You are Locked On Brewers, your daily Milwaukee Brewers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Great to start another week with you. My name is Chuck Freimund, longtime sportscaster here in the state of Wisconsin, and of course, the very proud host of Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Locked On Podcast Network, the number one sports podcasting network in the world. Locked On Brewers, the number one Brewers podcast on the internet. It's a Monday, so we got a lot to cover, including the Giants, who start a 4-game set in Milwaukee. Coming up later on tonight, we'll get to that. The third base spot, I get it. Rengifo is not good over there. Priester, what's going on with Priester? Is he ever coming back? The Brewers just own the month of May, led by Misiorowski. Miz did it again to finish off the month of May. He was 5-0 for the month of May. 0.23 earned run average. And the Brewers took 2 of 3 from Houston as the Miz goes 7 innings on a 3-hitter, struck out 8. Classic Miz just was terrific. Threw a few balls over 100 miles an hour, as he always does, quite a few. And the Brewers just settled in and got the win after just a terrible game on Saturday. A rare blowout loss, a game that the Astros scored 3 runs in 3 different innings, and it was 9-2, and it was game, set, and match. It was one of those games the Brewers were not going to ever come back, and they got blown out. But then what did they do? They always bounce back, and that's when you have a guy like the Miz at the top of the rotation who's going to come out there, and you hope, and we're feeling like we have confidence in him that he's going to go out there and pitch 6 or 7 strong, right? I mean, who doesn't have confidence in the Miz? I know some of that waned with Brewers fans last year when he struggled at times, but that's just part of the growth of a young pitcher. Now, here's the Miz, who's barely been in the league. Well, he's been in here less than a year, right? And to do what he's doing right now, just one of the top pitchers, if not the top pitcher. I know Sanchez in Philadelphia had an amazing May as well, but the Miz is just outstanding, right? Dominating out there. Must-see TV. Miz TV, I said in one of my reports this weekend, is must-see TV. Anytime that guy's on TV, well, the Brewers should always be must-see TV. But when he's on, you just kind of stop, watch him perform. At the very least, you watch the highlights if you can't watch the game itself. But gosh, he was just so good. Once again, dialing it up. And, of course, the Brewers' offense does the very minimum for him, I feel like always. They got a 4th inning 2-run blast from Jake Bauers, and that was it. They're good. That's what the Brewers do. And they just rode that to a 2-0 win. But the Brewers right now, with Miz, let's face it, and I don't want to go down this path long, but if he was pitching with the Yankees and the Dodgers, the Miz would be nonstop chatter on there. And I know he's been on the MLB network a few times since he's been brought up, but the Miz would just be, they'd be tripping themselves over themselves on ESPN or MLB network talking about the Miz. All right. And you know what? He's throwing heat. He's got some people talking about him, but he is just amazing, right? I mean, people were talking about Skeens the last couple of years, and Skeens isn't pitching great, but the Miz is. Wow, leading the league in strikeouts. And again, when the Brewers have a tough loss, like they did, they lost 2 games in a row last weekend to the Dodgers on Memorial Day weekend, and they came back on Memorial Day itself, and Miz led them to a 5-1 win over St. Louis. Same here. Tough loss on Saturday, bounce back and get the win. But as for the Brewers, that's what they do. Hunter Baumgart put out this tweet here. I want to credit him. I don't like stealing stuff from guys unless I'm going to credit him. Hunter Baumgart, a friend of mine, covers the Brewers for Fox Sports 920. He listed on a tweet, since May 5th, the Brewers are 17-5. On the other end, the team to the south of us, the Cubs, are 9-16. So since May 5th, Brewers are 17-5. The Cubs 9-16. On that May 5th, the Brewers were 4.5 out, last place in the NL Central at 18-16. Wow, what a turnaround to move themselves from 2 games over to now 14 games over the 500 mark, 35-21. They have a 4.5 game lead on St. Louis, 5 on Pittsburgh and the Cubs, and 6 on Cincinnati. The Brewers for the month of May went 19-7. 19-7 for the month of May. And have a 4-game set with the Giants coming in here. To start the week, by the way, the Cubs hosting Oakland for a first of 3 on Tuesday. St. Louis hosting Texas. That series begins tonight. Cincinnati is hosting Kansas City. That series begins tonight. Pittsburgh will be at Houston tomorrow, starting tomorrow. But this Giants series is another big one. I feel like the Brewers are playing a lot of road games right now. They're playing these short homestands, and then they're going back on the road. They have a 4-game set with the Giants, and then they go back on the road for a weekend. So this is like 2 weekends in a row. This weekend and next weekend. This weekend coming up against Colorado, the Brewers will be on the road. So 2 weekends in a row. The news on Priester over the weekend. And I'm going to sift through a lot of topics today. A lot of things I want to get to. The news on Priester. Yeah, I got to say it's discouraging. I got to be honest, it's discouraging because he can't get anybody out of AAA. Single A, things were not going well in his rehab starts at AAA. So it's going so bad right now that they're sending him down to the Arizona Complex League and try to get young kids out and see what he can get done there. The Brewers are doing all they can, and him too, doing all they can to avoid this surgery that he's got to have. He's got thoracic outlet syndrome going on. And I know if Shannon, if she's listening to this, she's going to say yay or nay to me pronouncing thoracic right. But thoracic outlet syndrome is the word. I feel like I need a medical degree to cover sports these days because some of these injuries I never heard of before until this one right here by Priester that he developed. And I was reading Adam McKelvey's piece, and it sounds like it's if he had the surgery, they'd have to remove part of his rib for his wrist. God, that seems kind of extensive there. But again, what do I know? But like I said, the Brewers are trying to avoid that with Priester, and Priester's trying to avoid that. With all costs, the players do not want to have surgery, right? They do not want to have surgery. And somebody might say, well, if he's not pitching well at AAA, instead of going to this Arizona Complex League, why doesn't he go back to pitch for the Timber Rattlers? Well, they're not going to put him on a bus to go with some of those bus trips, right? A guy who's tasted the major leagues is not going to go on especially a guy who's doing rehab starts is not going to. They're going to put him on a Midwest League bus. All right, to travel, to stay in these Motel 6s all around the state, all around the Midwest, I should say. There is no other single A team in the state. There used to be, but so the rehab is not going well. And they're going to try to see what they can get done with him in the Arizona Complex League. But that's what it's come down to. He's agreed to it. The Brewers said, hey, can you do this? He said, yes. I think he'd rather do that than pitch at single A or even at AAA. Even at AAA, where the travel is a little bit better, obviously a lot better than single A. But he's going to go down to Arizona. I don't know. I think that's like one of the questions I get most from fans. When is Priester coming back? They were hoping for maybe the first week of June, which was this week. Obviously, that's not happening. That is not happening at all. Rengifo. I want to touch on Rengifo here. We're going to touch on Rengifo when we get back because the guy's hitting below 200. He's not starting games over at third base. And it's a big problem to have, right? Shortstop Ortiz, it's bad enough where he can't hit at shortstop, but now over at third base, Rengifo just can't get on track. And that's been bad from the very beginning. He did show a little glimpse of it a couple of weeks ago, but we'll get to that next here on Locked On Brewers. Locked On Brewers brought to you by Game Time. Nothing like watching your team play, right? A Sunday afternoon, Saturday night, Friday night at AmFam Field. Well, where do you get the tickets? Game Time. It's the best place. That's where I go. Game Time. You know why? Because the seat views feature is huge. A panoramic view from my exact seat before I buy it. I touch it, and there it is. Oh, I want to sit right there. There we go. Or the zone deals. The zone deals, you pick the section. Let's say you want to pick in the 100s, and then you see even more because Game Time selects the seat. You follow your favorite team, get alerts when new deals drop. 2 taps, and it's all done. No hidden fees, no big surprises, no stresses. You're not going to get a new fee every time you click, and by the time you get to the checkout line, it's like, man, this is what I don't want to pay this for the ticket. No, you get all your fees up front. It makes it easy to decide last minute to hit a game. And yeah, last minute to hit a game, 3 hours, 2 hours, 1 hour before game time, on Game Time, those ticket prices start to plunge. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the promo code LOCKEDON, $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, use the promo code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Game Time app, and not only Brewers tickets are on there, baseball tickets, but concert tickets, you name it. It's all on the Game Time app. Game Time, I'm telling you, that's a great place to get tickets. All right, Chuck Freimund here on Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Had to move real quick to close the door, close the window here, because a train in the middle of the night decided to roll through my neighborhood. By the way, the podcast, you get it on Google, Spotify, Apple, and all the major downloads, wherever you download your audio podcast. We're the #1 Brewers podcast, like I said. And if you're already listening to us on all the audio platforms, try our YouTube page as well. Go to Locked On Brewers on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell. Not only do you get our 30-minute video weeknights, but you also, or weekday mornings, I should say, you also get our 60 to 90-second videos after the game, our rapid reactions, our immediate reaction after the game, and you can get that come right to your phone or your device or whatever, but you just got to be a subscriber to YouTube, and all the content is always free. Rengifo, I know fans out there, I hear you. Now, let me tell you this. The Brewers, they went out and made the Durbin trade. All right, they traded Durbin to Boston, and Durbin, other than a brief, small little stretch, struggling immensely in Boston. Struggling, the defense is there, but he's struggling. But the Brewers, right, the assets they got back from the Durbin trade are pretty good. Is it worth having? Well, Durbin, you don't know if he could. He might have done that here, but you traded Durbin off, and you got, namely, Kyle Harrison out of that, right? But as a result, the Brewers went out and got themselves somebody to fill that third base spot. They went out and they eyed up Rengifo, who was with the Angels, and thought maybe he could come in here and give him some of that same production that Durbin did last year, right? And it hasn't been the case. Like I said, Rengifo got onto a brief stretch there. I never looked at Rengifo as being long-term anyway, and his innings, his games are being shut down a little bit. Didn't play the final 2 games over at third base. You're seeing more Hamilton over at third base. I mean, Hamilton's in the lineup a heck of a lot. He played all 3 days this weekend. When he's not playing third base, he's playing shortstop for Ortiz. And it's not like Hamilton's tearing the ball off the cover either, right? I mean, his best asset is bunting. He's batting .225. But at third base, I feel if the Brewers want to contend not only for a division title, but for a championship, you have to have better production than Rengifo. He's hit 196. He's got no pop over there, and it's just a disaster. And it's not like he's giving you even average defense. I feel like his defense over there below average. Anytime a ball's hit over there, I'm like, oh, please. And I feel like every throw he makes from third base is either high or in the dirt. So he's on a team that is very good defensively. Rengifo is like one of the weak spots, in my opinion. So he's not good defensively. He's certainly not hitting. No pop, not doing them any good. The Brewers have him on a 1-year deal with the option for next year at $10 million. There's not a lot invested in him, but you got to go out. And I talked about this in the podcast last week. You know, the idea of getting Skubal from the Tigers and giving up prospects is absurd. The Brewers would never do that anyway. Okay, this isn't CC Sabathia in 2008. They're not doing that. You know, there's always questions whether or not the Brewers would make a blockbuster move anyway. But I think you got to go out there and get yourself a third baseman. You got to get yourself a third baseman. You just got to. You can't live this way. There's no way you can go. And I'm telling you, July, you can't wait till August 1st on this deal. Because he's not, you're giving him 2 months over at third base, more than 2 months, because the season started like toward the end of March. The experiment is over. Right? And some people have thrown names out there of guys who are struggling with other organizations. I don't know. I mean, if Moustakas had anything left in him and he could come out of retirement, I would take him at third base. That's what the Brewers need, is a guy like that. Need to find themselves a bat somewhere. And I feel like over the next couple of weeks, there's going to be some bats available. There's going to be some of these teams that are going to be looking to trade guys. Like the Tigers are looking to trade Skubal right now because it's not going as well as they like. Those names will surface, and the Brewers need to get on that. I'm not saying give it up Madej for anybody, but depending on the right guy, I might give up. You might have to give up one of the top 100s. One of the guys I'd be willing to give up is Cooper Pratt. But I think the guy that if you identify a guy, I think you need another year team. I just don't want a rental for the rest of the season. It'd be great if you can get a guy you could rent him for the rest of the season and you have him under contract through next year. But that might cost you a little bit more, right? So, but we all agree. We all agree in Brewers Nation that Rengifo is not the answer. We've given that enough and just not enough. I feel nothing when he comes to the plate. Nothing at all. I have more confidence in David Hamilton, who, again, his best route to get from home plate to first is laying down a 5-yard bunt. And the Brewers obviously feel the same way. Giants coming in here next. Willy Adames. He was here last year, right? He had a grand slam. He had a grand slam against Colorado yesterday. They intentionally walked the guy in front of him to pitch to Adames, and Adames loaded to left field for a grand slam. The Giants beat Colorado 19-6. And the Giants, things are not going well for them. They're 23-36. They're 15 games behind the Dodgers. Adames is hitting .243 with 8 home runs. Last year, he hit a .225 with 30 bombs. But Chapman is not having a good year. He's been at the wrath of Giants fans there, Matt Chapman. It's just not, the last couple of years, not going well for the Giants. Not like they hoped. They had visions of contending with the Padres and obviously the Dodgers, the National League West, and it's not going like they'd hoped. Landon Roop is pitching for the Giants tonight against Shane Drone. Kyle Harrison goes on Tuesday, and Harrison, let's talk about the Miz. Harrison, 6-1, has just been amazing. ERA of 1.57. Trevor McDowell goes for the Giants, and Wednesday and Thursday TBA for Wednesday and Thursday for Milwaukee, and Wednesday Logan Webb will pitch for the Giants tentatively. There's a feeling maybe Wednesday or Thursday that could be Woodruff in one of those starts. Maybe Wednesday or Thursday, but you also hear he's going to take some pitch to some live BP. Who knows? Would they have him pitch in one of those games? Brewers love their TBAs, Wednesday and Thursday. I would kind of think that Woodruff is not going to pitch in one of those games. But I've heard rumblings about it. Just saying. But again, there's no need to rush Woodruff back at all on that. Another bat the Giants have got, Arias. He's I believe he's hitting over 300, having a decent year. But a 4-game homestand with the Giants. You have the 3-night games Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Getaway day Thursday, and then you got to go to Colorado beginning on Friday. So Brewers have some road games ahead of them coming off this brief 3-game road trip this past weekend. But hopefully against the Giants, you could take 3 or 4. Nothing's for granted. As I always tell you, against these bad baseball teams, you still got to go out there and play. The Brewers really love Rob Zastryzny. They love him a lot. Talk about Uribe. We'll get to that next here on Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. By the way, you could be a member of the Everydayer Club on Everydayer Club. The link is below. Commercial-free Locked On Brewers on the audio platforms. There's other amenities as well. You get into our Discord. We talk one-on-one Brewers baseball with you, but you got to be a member of Locked On Brewers, the Everydayer Club. So the link below, check out the link below on all the audio platforms and the link below on YouTube to see if you'd like to be a member of the Everydayer Club and check out all the amenities that go along with it. Uribe got a 1-game suspension, fined 1 game. So he's going to, the fine, in addition to the losing a 1-game paycheck, which, you know, it's pretty big for these guys, all these guys. If you look at what do these guys pay, one of these guys, if you break it down for each game that they play in, I mean, there's thousands and thousands of dollars involved. So that's, you know, Uribe, that's still a big deal. And for the crotch chop that he did last week against St. Louis, I'm glad it's only a game. But that's Uribe, who pitched on Sunday and Friday night got out of a bases loaded jam, right? How about that? Got out of the bases loaded jam on Friday. One other thing about this weekend's ball, Saturday, I'm starting to lose a little confidence in Sproat. The control is not there. I feel like he doesn't seem real confident. And I hate the confidence, not confidence thing that, does this win give you confidence? Does this give you confidence? You got to have confidence if you're playing sports, period. But in this case, yeah, I just don't see, I don't know, maybe Sproat needs a trip down to AAA to straighten things out. But when he's pitching these days, I'm not feeling real great. I think he does have a bright future. I really do. It's not there just yet. Rob Zastryzny, boy, the Brewers are the only team that really loves this guy. I feel like Rob Zastryzny is always in the news. Anytime I read a McCalvy's piece or I read about the JS Online guys, Rosiak or Hogue, they're always talking about Robbie Z. Man, the Brewers love themselves some Robbie Z. Off the injured list, Robbie Z, the left-handed arm. Robbie Z. Even when another team releases him, the Brewers are the only team that says, we'll take him back. He's like the Tony Fossas. Remember Tony Fossas, the mechanic? Man, the Fossas, I felt like the Brewers, for whatever reason, they were the only team in baseball. He played Boston for a while, too. They're the only team that liked him. Jake Woodford. When Jake Woodford is taking one for the team out there, people are coming after, not coming after me, but are messaging me, why is Jake Woodford on this team? Every team needs a guy who's going to mop up some innings at the end when the game is probably already decided. Woodford's job is there. He's never going to pitch unless it's absolutely necessary, maybe an extra inning game, or you are really down relievers. Woodford is not going to pitch unless the game is well decided. They're up big, down big. Jake, you come in and throw us a couple of innings. Trust me, the Brewers are relieved beyond beyond belief. Woodford, Easton McGee, those guys, bring them in to finish off and suck up some innings toward the end there. And just hope he can take you to the finish line. All right. Well, we're at the finish line of this podcast. As we always cut it late Sunday night, early Monday morning. So you have it fresh there, talking about all the weekend's games and looking ahead to what we got coming up this week. Big weekend, week for the Giants. And how about taking 2 or 3 from a series again? How about that? You win 2 of 3. You swept 3 from the Cardinals last week and took 2 or 3 from the Astros this weekend. It's a pretty good week for the Brewers. But May was a pretty good month, like I said. What I have, 19-7 here? Yeah, 19-7 for the month of May. Take that every single time. Let's have a good week, everybody. We'll see you every day this week, right here on Locked On Brewers. My name is Chuck Freimund. Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day.